What would you do if you got fired tomorrow? I'm not talking about, you've been a real shit at work and you've seen it coming for months and you're terrible at your job and you just don't give a shit about working at the ice cream parlor or whatever it is you do. But say you're working really hard at a job that you like enough and the money's fine and everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden you're fired. What do you do? It forces a certain kind of introspection. I think it's useful as a thought experiment to sort of think about that situation, because it makes you think, okay, well, what am I good at? What have I done before? Do I like what I'm doing? Do I want to continue doing that? Do I want to do something else? It sort of forces you to think outside the box. And it's so easy not to do that. Like when you're caught up in the day-to-day of living your life, you don't have to think about any of these questions. You get up 6:30, you shower, you go to work, you do your thing, you come home, it's dinner, you watch 2 episodes of something on Netflix, and then you go to sleep. That's your day, that's your life, more or less. And so I almost feel like the 40-hour work week is almost designed with the idea of giving you enough time to sort of slightly rest and recuperate and get back to it and be productive the next week and do all your errands and stuff. But not so much time free time as to allow you to be like existential or think about the meaning of life or where you should be going or if you should be doing what you're currently doing. It's sort of designed to keep you just busy enough to stay on the hamster wheel and not have any deep thoughts. There's actually a line in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World where they're talking about the different levels of people. If you haven't read that book, it's a fantastic book. You should absolutely read it. But there's alphas and betas and these different tiers of people, and they've all got specific jobs. And one of the characters is asking like, well, we know sort of how much productivity, we know how much stuff we need. We've developed the perfect society. Why do we keep getting them to work these long working weeks? And he goes, well, we tried that. We experimented with it, but basically, if you gave people too much free time, they ended up just being, drug addicts and fuck ups. So in order to have this like perfect society, this perfect sort of consumer capitalist economy, we sort of need people to be occupied and not thinking about the stuff too much, because otherwise you start having thoughts like, is this the point of my life? Can I get up and do this for 40 hours a week, for the next 40 or 50 years? And as soon as you start engaging on thinking like that long term, all that sort of stuff just kind of goes out the window. But like back to the question is, how much is enough? That's the real key sort of question there. There's an off-quoted study. I think it's an American study. I'll have the details in the links down below to actually make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. But that talks about 75K sort of being the magic number. $75,000 a year, where your basic needs are met and you can pay for all the stuff that you need, and you can maybe put a little bit of money aside for retirement or emergencies and things like that. So once the idea being once your basic needs are met, like the addition of more money doesn't make you commensurately more happy. Like if you're earning $150,000 a year, you're not twice as happy as someone who earns $75,000 a year. So that number may vary, but society and cost of living and all that sort of stuff in different areas. But I think it's a good rule of thumb to sort of say, okay, what's enough? I would want enough to be able to not have to work so hard. And then the question becomes, okay, so you don't have to work so hard, so you've got additional time. What do you do with that time? So say you were fired tomorrow. Maybe you have to worry about money. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're rich. Or say you have enough money. What do you then do? Because I feel like a lot of people get so caught up in this hamster wheel of what I'm doing, what I'm working on right now. This is the thing. This is the only thing. Gives you structure. Gives you a routine. It's like, okay, great. I'm working a sales job, for example. I get up, this is my purpose, to put pants on during the day, and I go out. Say you're not doing that anymore. The question becomes, okay, well, what do you choose to do? You can sit around and play computer games, or you can get drunk or stoned all day, I guess. But I think probably the smartest thing to do, and this is what I'd advocate, is to find work, find work that's purposeful. So find something you enjoy being good at and something that you would probably spend your time on regardless of whether you are getting paid. So for me, that's performing, that's doing things like this, it's podcasting, things that I would do without getting paid. And how do I know that? It's because I haven't been getting paid. So that's the thing I think you should focus on, is the things that you enjoy being good at that obviously have some value in the market as well. I trained as an actor. There's nobody coming knocking on my door asking me to be an actor right now. There's, you could be really passionate about basket weaving, but like if no one's paying you to do that, then there's no need for that in the market. So the key, I guess, is to find purposeful work, because doing something for the next 40 years and not doing something for the next 40 years seem equally as hard to me. Like, you could sip pina coladas on a beach. But how long can you do that for? For 2 weeks? Maybe it's just my weird type A brain that's like, if I did that for more than 2 weeks, I'd drive myself insane. I'd be like, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm recuperated. What's the next thing? Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe there's plenty of you out there that would happily go and sit on a beach in Bali for the next 40 years and just become one of those like leather people, where you're walking down the beach and they're just like so brown, like a handbag, and you realize, oh, that's not a brown person. That's just a banker that's gone crispy, sitting there in the sun for the last 20 years. Maybe that's a good life. But I kind of feel like what you're really after is memories, time with your loved ones, friends, family. Like, those are the things that make people actually happy. Demonstrably, there have been studies, we know this. So, but you can't hang out with your friends and family during the week because they're working. So it's about having a balance of finding purposeful work, doing enough of it, maybe 30 hours a week. Maybe instead of 40, I think a 4-day week as opposed to a 5-day week would probably be better. It gives you just a little bit more time to find that balance and do things that you like and still get enough money that you can make life go. Our obligations for this place is $4,500 a month. For this place, for our current standard of living, with no sort of like additional frugality on top of that, it's just our normal standard of living, not changing at all, $4,500 a month. So is my obligation then to bring in $4,500 a month? And then the question becomes, what is work? Is work a means to get that $4,500? If you can get that $4,500, trading shares or cryptocurrency, should you just do that? It sort of becomes a bit more complicated. But I think once you get to a certain level, and this is obviously from our very privileged Western culture perspective on things, but it's like, if you've got a job and you're earning $60,000, $70,000 a year and you got both of you working and, you're not spending your money on dumb shit and you're putting money into some sort of investment vehicle that's going to grow over time, you probably could retire when you were 40 or 50 if you wanted to live really frugally. But then retire to do what? So this is where I always keep coming back to purposeful work. If you read the Barefoot Investor, he says, when he talks about retirement, he goes, the best way to retire is to not really retire, is to move down to 2 or 3 days a week doing something that you really like doing, that's purposeful. Maybe it helps the community, maybe it's volunteering, but you still need to do something, I think. Getting up and having nowhere to be and nowhere to go is not actually great for your mental state. And there's been obviously a lot of studies around people's cognitive decline after they retire. The amount of happiness and things like that can be affected as a result of working really hard for 50 hours a week your entire life, and then retiring at 65 and not really having any other things to go to or friends to be with or anything like that. That can actually be really isolating. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about, the idea of, obviously there's the FIRE, community, financial independence, retire early, all these sorts of movements as to what to do with your time, and, ideas about universal basic income, which we didn't even touch on. But I think I don't know. It's the deepest question, right? What is the meaning of life? Purposeful work and good times with friends and family seems a good answer as any. But I'm open to hearing other people's responses. I'd love to hear what you guys say and think about that. Make sure to leave a comment on the video, and I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe. I would never do that to you. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope it was interesting and compelling to some degree. Love your faces, and I'll see you in the next one.